and I'm a member of the Laurel Springs 2013 Centennial Committee. Today we have the privilege of interviewing Elsie Stubbins, who will be telling us about her life in Laurel Springs, and thank you very much for coming. Were you born in Laurel Springs?
Yes.
Yes? And when were you born in Laurel Springs?
November the 12th, 1916.
1916. And what were your parents' names?
Mr. and Mrs. Robert A. Rutherford. And I had 7 brothers and 4 sisters. Robert, Margaret, Elizabeth, Mary Jane, James, Allison, Hamilton, Isabel, Harry, William, and Richard. So, and one died in infancy. The rest lived till adult years.
Cool.
It was great to be in a big family. There are only 2 of us left.
2 of you left? Oh.
Yeah, my brother's in Sanford, South Carolina.
Okay.
And I'm here.
And you're here.
Mm-hmm.
And then you married, and what was your husband's name?
Sidney Stubbins. And he lived in Kirkwood. And he had 7 in his family. So.
And then how many children did you have, you and your husband?
5.
And their names?
Kathy, Ted, or Sidney, and Richard, Robbie, Robert, and Mary Jane. Only 3 left.
And do any of them live around here?
Ted lives in Laurel Springs, and Rob lives in Vermont, and Mary Jane's in Delaware. Too far.
Yeah. And how many grandchildren do you have?
2.
2?
And 1 great-grandchild. Mm-hmm. Just got her.
Oh. And what were your earliest memories of growing up in Laurel Springs?
You know, what I think of most is the lake, around the lake, because we used to walk around the lake so much. And then at Crystal Springs, I don't know whether you knew, a lot of watercress grew there. Ah. And I used to often pull it. You just pulled it up and sent it to my Aunt Margaret, who was a missionary in Kentucky, because she loved watercress sandwiches. Ah. And then around the lake there were a lot of violets growing. So I would pick some for home and for an aunt in Philadelphia, who I was named after. So, and it was just, I just loved walking around. We all did. We used to start at Park Avenue. And, you know, there were a lot of mushy places where people had put stones or boards to walk across. So you had to be real careful. And we'd usually end up, well, I guess it's the end of Glen Avenue, where, I don't know whether you want me to tell this.
Sure.
Used to be a sort of a general store called Freedom Lawlers.
What was it called?
Freedom Lawlers.
Oh, okay.
Don't ask me how to spell it.
Right, no.
Okay. And they, of course, rented canoes. And there were, to the side of that, there were 2 clubhouses. This was real long ago. And I remember most of it because of an uncle who lived with us. And he belonged to the clubs that were there. And they'd had so much fun there. And I don't know how long they lasted or anything. Then we also to Crystal Springs a lot.
Did you?
And on the other, right around Crystal Springs, there were, well, a lot of trees. I guess they're still there. But they had these vines. We called them monkey vines. And we used to play Tarzan and Jane and swing on them.
Oh, cool.
It was so neat.
Yes.
Yeah. So, let's see if I have anything else.
Right. And like the bridge that went from Laurel Springs to Lindenwood?
Well, across the Garden Lake.
Springs, yeah, across the Garden Lake.
Yeah, well, that was, I think that's sort of the end of Maple Avenue.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we used to go across that, and that was Garden Lake then. And there was a Boy Scout building there. Then if you walk back to Laurel Road on that side, you're up higher than you are when you're on this side. And when you come to Laurel Road, if you go across the street, there used to be an old mill there. I don't know what they milled, maybe flour or something.
Right.
And if you walk down the side of the building, there were bricks and a big open space where you could sort of sit and watch the wheel go around. It was real neat to watch.
Yes.
And then if you go on a little further, you came to Peanut Hill, where we went sledding, and it was neat. At night they usually had a fire burning somebody so you could warm up, and we had lots of fun there. And if you go on past that into the woods, it was a great place to hike. There was a stream there, and you could see a lot of skunk cabbage, and you had to be careful you didn't step on it. And tea berries if you wanted to make tea berry tea.
Oh.
And a lot of Jack in the Pulpits were really neat to see.
Oh,
And we used to love to go back there. Yeah. I guess it's behind some of those Stratford houses.
Yes, right,
now.
right.
Yeah, it was a real neat place. I could get that all that.
Good. And who were your neighbors as you were growing up?
Well, we lived on Park Avenue, and I think it was 514. Alexander's were on one side, and on the other side, not right next to us, but Sally's. Mr. Sally was the president of Laurel Springs National Bank. And there was a lot between Alexander's and our place. So, of course, that was a great place to play.
Oh.
And across the street were layman's. And Mrs. Brailsford, who was a lady way ahead of her time, she used to buy houses, fix them up, and sell them. And that was a long, long time ago.
My goodness.
Yeah, so I had so many houses I could see when I walk around that Mrs. Brailsford, she'd live in them all, fix them, and then she'd sell them.
Man.
Really neat. And let's see what else.
That's okay. So how long did you live on Park Avenue?
Well, before we lived in that house, we lived on the one on the corner of Park and Locust. It's a big house. And my sisters and brothers used to tell me I was just little. That was it must have been around 1916, because I have a picture with 1916 on it. Some of the family are on the porch. And they had a big barn in the back where the kids played and gave shows and all that stuff.
Oh, how cool.
And they said there was a dumbwaiter in that house, and the people who bought it, one of Doris Bax's daughters, she said, oh golly, we'll have to see if we can find it. So I don't know whether they ever did.
Yeah, Tracy.
Yeah, yeah. And then let's see, then my family moved to Collingswood for a few years. Then they came back to 514. We called that the little house.
Oh.
And in 1926, we moved to Mount Vernon Avenue, 211, right across from the ball field, which was a great place. We could watch all the fireworks stuff and ball games and all. That was
Yeah, that's
really
when we had
nice.
the fireworks for 4th of July,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that was really neat. And our neighbors, see, you asked about neighbors,
yes.
am I on the right track?
Sure, you're fine. Just keep talking, it's
The
fine.
neighbors there was Mr. McDowell. He had a motorcycle, first person I knew that had a motorcycle. And all that's all we knew about him. He came in and out on his motorcycle. And Dunleavy's moved there. They had 2 girls and a boy. And the boy had one of these airplanes that you fly like a kite, and you had some kind of a motor or something to guide it. And it was fun to watch him. And let's see who else that we had in the back. Oh, it's funny, when Mr. Dunleavy came home from work, he would honk the horn with in front of the house, and Mrs. Dunleavy would run out the back door and open the garage door for him. What's that
Oh,
make?
cool.
What's that make you think? Then the Torpy family lived across from us, and there were 3 boys we were friendly with, and Mr. Torpy liked kids, so that was a real plus. We enjoyed him being there. And on the back street, well, there were Caffreys. They had 2. Well, they were older than me, Slim and Lib. And then across the street was the Lane family. There were 2 boys, Jack and Ed. And one funny thing about Jack, if a gang of kids were walking along the street and he'd pass you, instead of saying hello to everybody, he'd say, "Hi, Else. Hi, Is. Hi, Harry." And he did it all the time. It was sort of nice.
Yes,
yeah.
right.
Yeah. And there were a family named Davises, but I didn't know them very well. I guess that's all there. Yeah.
And how about school? At Laurel Springs School? What are your good memories of Laurel Springs School? You can go out of whatever way you want to go.
Well, I remember May Day. Did you ever hear of May Day?
Yes,
Did you remember the maypoles?
Yes.
Oh, we used to love them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was the same day that Laurel and Stratford and Clementon got together, and they had races, like a small Olympic, very small Olympic,
Yes.
like broad jump and pole vaulting, and that was always neat. I always remember Bill Conover. Did you ever hear of him?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I can remember him running in them. You know, and that was a long time
Right.
ago. Yeah.
So that was a fun time.
Yeah, yeah. It was neat. And I remember in 4th grade, our teacher, we had a store, and we had a manager and a clerk and play money, and everybody had brought in stuff to sell. So, you know, canned goods. And it was fun, something different,
Yes.
because you don't get too much of that.
No.
And then there used to be an American store on the corner of the school lot where the War Memorial is.
Oh.
And it is now on Broadway opposite the school. It's apartments now.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know that.
Well,
Gee.
something new. And our principal, we thought she was ancient, and she probably wasn't, you know. But they called her Nani, and I don't know why. I read it here, but I don't think that has anything to do with Nani. And then we had a teacher in 2nd grade, Miss Heckroth. And at that time, the song Carolina Moon came out, and she married Mr. Moon.
Oh.
So we used to serenade at her window, and sing Carolina Moon. I don't know whether she liked it or not, but we thought it was neat.
Oh,
And,
definitely.
yeah. And then we always had time for exercise every day. And if it rained, you did them inside, and otherwise you're outside. And I don't know whether they do that anymore.
No, because it's also regulated, you know,
Yeah.
what the kids do,
Yeah.
yes.
And you want some of my classmates?
Sure.
Almy, Charles Nelson, Ruth Nelson, Bud Bush, Ruth Morrell, Thelma Myers, and Helen Owens.
Oh.
If any of those names are familiar. Now, when we moved to Laurel Springs,
Sure.
did I say that before?
Yeah, when you moved to Laurel Springs, yes.
I did it?
Yes.
We'll get rid of that. I didn't say when we moved, did I?
No, no. You can say that, yeah. Go ahead.
Okay.
Just say when.
And let's see. And I don't remember what year it was. I don't have it here. Oh, when I got married, I moved to Kirkwood. And then we were only there about 8 years. And my sister was selling our old house on 211 Mount Vernon.
Ah.
Because she got married and her husband wanted to move to college. So we thought Laurel Springs would be a better place to raise our kids than Kirkwood. So we stayed there until 19, 82, I think. And Sid was quite crippled and couldn't maintain that big house. So we moved into a mobile home place. And then in March of, what's this year? 2012,
right.
I moved back to Laurel Springs, and with my son in Maple Avenue, and I'm just glad to be back in Laurel.
Good to have you, yes, because you have such good memories.
I always loved it.
Mm-hmm.
Mayors.
Mm-hmm.
I remember Joe Duran. His wife was Olive Duran, and she was our scout leader.
Oh.
And when we went on camping trips, Joe and his dog were our guardians. We always felt safe. He was great. And I remember Mr. Haggerty, but I don't remember anything about him.
Oh, okay.
And then, of course, my brother-in-law, Wallace Patton, was mayor one time. And then I remember Jack Hagan. They're the only mayors I remember.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
That's still a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, well,
Whatever you want to talk about.
Business section.
Yes, right. Mm-hmm.
On Atlantic Avenue, where Palmer's is now, there was a shoe store called Dern's. I guess that was the people's name.
Okay.
And then on the corner of Mount Vernon and East Atlantic, there was a bakery, like the one where it's sort of high.
Oh.
And, you gotta go up steps. And then in the middle of the block, of course, there was a movie house. And my brother Harry and his wife had an apartment upstairs, and they saw lots of movies because they knew the operator. And on one side was a sweet shop called Jimmy's, ice cream and that kind of stuff. And I think it was called Jimmy's because he put Jimmy's on the ice cream cones. And on the other side was a drugstore.
Oh.
And then later, Jimmy's became Joe Malone and his brother's shoe repair.
Oh, okay.
Until he moved across the other side. And he was great. He never gave tickets out. And when you went to pick up your shoes, you always got the right ones. And we never understood how he could remember.
He was
Because there were a lot of people.
right. He was phenomenal.
Yeah, he was something else. And Bill's barber shop was still a barber shop, but I don't remember the name.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And then around the corner on Washington Avenue, there was a general store called Euchre's, and Bill Euchre and his mother ran it. And it was a post office, and it was a phone exchange,
Oh.
and of course a general store. And then later, the phone exchange was taken up the street about 2 houses from the corner. And Mrs. Dugan, who lived on Walnut Avenue, was the operator. Did you know Mrs.
Yes.
Dugan?
My mother worked with her.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And let's see, then we have to come on the other side.
Right.
Got the post office. The post office was one time on this side of the railroad.
Yes, right.
Yeah, but I don't recall just where it was.
Across from the school.
Yeah, that's right, the little triangle.
Right, the triangle, yes.
But then it was also at the corner of West Atlantic and Tomlinson Avenue for a while.
Oh, okay.
And then that's an ice cream parlor now, I see. And next to that was Denby's, the general store. And the building with the steps, it was a 5 and 10 on one side, and a barber shop. The Metzger's 2 brothers ran that. And at one time there was an A&P store there. We had an A&P and an American, both at the
right.
Laurel Springs has changed. No stores really.
No.
And no post office, and but it's still a nice town. And of course, Sam O'Teary's store where meat was real good.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And of course he sold other things. And before that, I remember in the summer it was like a farm store where they sold all fresh vegetables and all. So I don't know whether if it was open in the winter or just,
okay.
yeah. And the little, then sort of in the middle, where then, I don't know what's there now, is there a tailor shop or something?
Yes, a tailor shop.
Well, that used to be at High Steps. And there was a news agency and that kind of stuff
Before
there.
Artie bought it.
Yeah, yeah. And I don't know when those steps came down, but it's high.
Oh.
And a good place for the fellas to hang out.
Yeah.
And then the little red building was a bank. And then, you know, they built that big bank, which is now a catering service.
Right.
What a difference.
Yes.
And on the other corner of Park Avenue and Stone Road, there was a store that sold material and sewing supplies, run by two Schubert sisters.
Oh, okay.
And then Brosig's. Later on, Brosig's. What did you remember when they had?
Yes, Brosig's. Yes.
Okay. And then next to that was Mick's Real Estate.
Right.
And then Robert, in the 40s, Robert finished his dental school. I used to ride up, and we went up to school. He was going to college, and some of us were going to high school. So we happened to get a ride in the same car.
So what high school did you go to?
Haddon Heights.
Haddon Heights.
Yeah. And on the White Horse Pike, on the other side of the pike, Brosig's had a beer distribution place. And on this side, a gas station run by the Sable brothers. And the only other thing I remember was that big Collins house.
Yeah.
That's now, I guess, an electric or a phone facility.
Yeah, Verizon, yes.
And I remember on summer nights, lots of times, a lot of us would, especially some of the older people, would take their chairs out to sit along the pike. You know, you weren't too many cars. And it's just fun to watch the cars, and the kids would wave. And if somebody waved back, they were thrilled. Didn't take much to make the kids happy in those days. And I've gone to the St. Paul's Presbyterian Church all my life.
Okay.
And the first minister was Dr. Barrett, who was blind. And then Dr. McEwen, and Dr. Campbell, Irv Emmings, Reverend Shaw, Jonathan Miller, David Winker, and today it's Cliff Jones.
Right.
So
Gee, that's fabulous.
Yeah.
You know them all. Gosh, might keep some of your notes.
I did know all of them.
Yeah, isn't that wonderful?
I babysat for Camels.
Oh.
No, for McEwen's. Camels had two kids, a boy and a girl. We were good friends. And they had that big barn. You used to have a big barn in back of the manse.
Oh.
To the side.
Right.
And we had loads of fun there. You know, putting on shows and, you know, how kids
putting
do.
on shows? Oh,
Well,
yeah.
just for the bunch of
Right,
us.
yes,
We weren't too good. And let's see, what members of the church, I can remember some of them. Owens, Alexanders, and of course the Rutherfords, Osbornes, Myers, Nelsons, Davidsons, Conovers, Mayers, Morans, Bush, Wetherells, Hess, Jackson, Stouts, Steiningers, Flemings, Yates, Howers, Burgers, Walkers, Lynch.
Gosh, that's
I
fabulous.
remember some of them.
Yes, that is fabulous.
And I belonged to the Girl Scouts, Christian Endeavor, and Campfire Girls for a while. And during World War I, Mrs. Ellie, the wife of the president of the bank, had a lot of us come and wrap bandages for World War I.
Oh. See, yeah, I don't know nothing about that.
Yeah, the 4th of July was a great day, wasn't it? I can remember this store where the sewing, where Artie was. I don't know who had it then, but they used to put the prizes in the windows in the front. And then if you really wanted a certain prize, you'd try to dress for that. Like they'd tell what category it was. And if you wanted to try for that, you could sort of try to dress to get that prize.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that was sort of neat. And I think so many kids were in the parade. It was fun. Of course, they had bicycles, too.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, during the day, there were all sorts of things going on. And when we lived at 211, we could watch all this stuff from our porch, which was really nice. And the flag, big flag that dropped the little flags. And
they still do it.
Yeah, that's neat. And our property went from Mount Vernon to Washington. And we had friends that lived down on the other side, and they said, could we park in your back lot? We said, sure. Well, everybody else thought it was the parking place. By the time they were ready to go home after the fireworks, they said, we'll walk home, we'll come up tomorrow and get the car. So the kids thought, gee, maybe we can make a parking lot of it in the yard. That didn't happen. And, oh, and of course, on the 4th of July, we had loads of people sitting on our porch and benches and on the ground so they could watch the fireworks. And way back, after the fireworks, they used to have a dance in the school auditorium.
Oh.
And that was really nice.
Oh, gee.
Yeah. And another thing way back, you know the clubhouse at the end of Walnut Avenue, the brick place? They used to have swimming races there.
Oh, okay.
And then at night they had, like, boats decorated.
Like a regatta.
Yeah, yeah. And that was always fun. World War II, I had one brother in the Coast Guard, 2 in the Navy, a brother-in-law in the Marines, and another in the Army. So we got lots of mail.
Yes.
And many of them were censored. You know, they'd black them out.
Right.
So I don't know what they were telling us, but we're thankful they all came back home safe.
Yes.
And my father was involved in the air raid warnings, and I think he was stationed at the school somehow way up top someplace.
Oh, okay.
And
at Laurel Springs School?
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
Yeah. And at the defense, Sid worked at RCA, and of course he couldn't go to war, not that it made him sad, because they needed him, you know.
Right.
So that was good. We didn't have to worry about him. And I remember Stafford's Farm down like Longstone Road.
Yes.
Yeah. And then Rexon's Farm we remember better because the cow pasture was very close to us. And we played over there a lot. There was a stream and we dam it up and all. And the cows didn't bother us. We just had to be careful where we walked.
Oh.
If you've been in a cow pasture. And I guess my favorite memory, there's not any one special. I just love growing up in Laurel Springs and glad I raised my kids there. It's a great town. And as to memories of Laurel, you know, the canoeing, swimming, ice skating, sledding, and just walking around.
Mm.
And I remember one hotel, I don't know whether,
Yes.
I think it was Balkman's or something like that.
The one on Lakeview?
Yeah.
Yes.
That
seems to be
that.
the most memorable one.
Yeah, I don't remember. And then people who live Laurel Springs, you want to hear all those names.
Just some of them, sure, yeah.
Well,
Are any of them still around?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
No. Alexander's, Myers, Thompson's, Martins, Torpy's, Caffrey's, Lane's, Dunn's, Woodside's. Mr. Woodside worked for a bus company, and it was great. He'd plan bus trips. Of course, he made money, I'm sure, but they'd take us to, there's a park, amusement park, Woodside Park, or something like that in Philadelphia, and he would say, stand up and say, "Where are we going?" And we'd all just yell, and he'd say, "Great, now let's And then he had some kind of little things we all hollered. He was great. And his wife taught sewing in this. He wasn't a real teacher, but in a school for a while.
Oh, in Laurel School?
Yeah.
Oh,
for just a little while. And some other people were in stands looking at all these.
Oh my goodness.
You know,
yes.
what all them.
Well, it's good to know. I mean, seriously. Oh, the Steinekers, the Flemings, the Finks, right, the Bradleys, Evas, yeah. Brysons. Yeah. Bates,
Names
Harris.
are familiar.
Yes. Lynches, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And some of these people we hope to still interview, yes.
You know,
That is pretty cool.
Yeah. Somebody else, Agneta, did you know any of the Jensens?
No, I did not, no.
When I was telling her about it, she said she'd like to do this.
Oh, and where does she live? Can you
I
give me her?
suppose I call you and give
Yeah,
you
call
her.
me and give me her number,
Yeah.
because she grew up in town also.
Yeah, and Whitney Myers.
Yeah, I'm going to interview
Are
Whitney
you?
also.
Oh, good,
Yes,
good.
yes.
Yeah, because he thought that would be neat.
Yes, yes, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's a great place to live, and I'm glad I'm back here.
I know, and I'll tell you, I learned just so much. Thank
did?
you ever so much for coming.
Oh, I enjoyed it.
Oh, good.
It keeps me, I've been thinking of more things all the time.
Yes,
you know,
right,
if it
yes.
goes on, I'd have been more long-winded.
Oh,
So
well,
you ought to
no,
be-
that's fine. No. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, guys.